Bring Robert Forrester, Chief Executive of the car dealership Vertu Motors, into the conversation. Robert, morning.
Morning.
First of all, just around fuel duty, are you hearing anything, expecting anything around that? Or is that a tax that we can kind of sort of cross off our list of ones to watch out for today?
Well, I don't think anybody really knows, but there was some rumblings it was actually going to be changed for the first time in quite a long time, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
We focused a lot on kind of, I guess, the smaller end of businesses in the first half of our programme, Robert. Yours obviously a giant business. What are you watching out for today? What are you hoping to hear?
Well, I'm really hoping to hear a government that wants to create some stability for the long term. We've got a situation where government debt's 98% of GDP, massive interest burden on the state, and that's just being passed on to business, I think, in terms of higher taxes for business, higher costs for business. The national minimum wage yesterday was quite a good example of that. And
is that going to impact you at Vertu?
I mean, I think it impacts all retail businesses for sure. Yeah. And you can talk about productivity increases, but I don't think we can automate the washing of cars very easily. People don't want to use car washes. And the regulatory burden on business is absolutely massive. We've seen no reduction in regulation as a result of Brexit whatsoever. So I'm more interested in what they're going to do for the long-term economy to get some economic growth, get interest rates down.
Yeah, been a huge focus on tax, hasn't there, as the kind of the only thing for growth. Is that frustrating to not hear other things talked about?
No, it is, because, we're talking about tax all the time because the government is so big and needs so much money to continue. And actually, we don't hear discussions around what's the right size of the state and how much of the economy it should absorb. And I think business is now viewed as a cash cow to be milked, really, rather than treated as the engine room to create wealth and prosperity. And I just think we're in the wrong area of debate.
What do you think would make that easier for you to do?
Well, I think there's a number of things. One is lower the cost of capital of British business. I do like the idea of the Great British ISA, which is being floated, which I think is a fantastic idea to get people's savings to invest in Britain to increase productivity. I think the whole balance of business taxes is wrong. I think corporation tax at 25%, massive impact of business rates on retail businesses, and just this idea that business can just be milked without a thought as to how to actually really get business employing people, creating prosperity, so then we can have the state services that we need.
Vivian, I guess you would echo some of that too.
Sorry, I didn't hear his last point.
But just in terms of, it's not just about tax. There are other things for, growing businesses like yours, larger businesses that are still trying to keep growing and keep exporting, other than just tax changes that could help you do that.
Absolutely.
Planning, I'm guessing, for example, in yours, for example.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier, it's about exporting as well. That's definitely like growing a business and making it better, growing the company, the country economy as well. And that's what I said, I'd really like support with that. Yeah. But yeah, I think the government has to look at everything as a whole. And I know it's not down to tax, but it's also a fairness and a fair playing ground. All your guests have been small businesses, but really large businesses, like sometimes you hear like Starbucks and Amazon, they're not paying their 20% corporation tax. They get tax cuts because they've done smart ways of structuring their companies. But it doesn't feel that fair when smaller businesses are really trying to. I think we're the majority as well. We employ so many people. We definitely need support to do that, not just in taxes, but in terms of, I think other people mentioned, like, how do you grow? How do you educate the people that you employ? They need more skills. We spend a lot on learning development at Little Moons, and it'd be great to get extra support with things like that.
Robert, quick final thought from you. I guess this idea, this full expensing idea, is that a useful beginning point for you? More of the same, I guess, this afternoon, more wider.
Well, it's helpful to some extent, but I think keeping tax simple, rather than getting into minutiae of expensing and capital allowances, and actually getting the headline rate down, and some simplification is probably better.
Absolutely. Robert, thanks so much for your time this morning. Robert Forrester, Chief Executive of Vertu Car Dealerships there.